campus. And a lot of these don't cost a lot of money. So we really want to just help you be successful. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the Greening of Schoolyards. What is it? It's a name. You can Google it and things will pop up. And the organizations that support that work. We're going to talk about master plans, and what that looks like is creating a big picture for your school of things to create. What are some of the common features that you would have on your campus? And then we're going to share a discussion about what you've got going at your campus and how we can help move things forward. So when we talk about greening of schoolyards, there's three basic concepts that I like to chat about. One is promote wellness, so social, emotional, mental health for your campus. And your campus is just ripe with opportunities to help us calm down a little bit and focus a little better. Diversified play. A lot of the images that you'll see here are based on elementary school, but they really will translate to all ages and all grades of campuses that we'll show. We'll also talk about enhancing hands-on learning, because you can teach any subject outside. There are several countries around the world that teach outside first and then they teach inside second. So we know that you can teach all sorts of great activities outside. How long has this been around? A long time. So you've probably seen the New York Times has been putting out pictures about teaching outside during different pandemics. So 1915, they brought all the ferry boats in the New York Harbor and put all the kids out on ferry boats in the fresh air during winter time. So hopefully we won't go to that extreme this winter, but there are some organizations that have thought out these projects really well. And I will post this information for you if you are interested in more research, but there's these five organizations are some of the best around the world for collecting information and how-to materials to do this work. The last one, Green Schoolyards America, I'm going to talk about a little bit later because there's really exciting products coming out literally in the next few weeks to help your school grounds move forward faster. Okay, so some of the benefits. There's lots of great information out there. There's research specifically on this to show that these improvements really do matter. These are graphics from the Children in Nature Network. They have a Greening of Schoolyards committee. I'm on that steering committee to help schools figure out how to do these better. And so they have packets of research. If you need to show these to colleagues or your school admin, these materials are available on their website, and I will get you that link if you are interested. But we know that when we are outside learning with enhanced natural areas, that you will see better grades, you will see higher test scores. We even know that even views of nature out your windows greatly improves high school students' attention span, test scores, graduation rates, etc. We know that project-based learning is kind of one of the newer phrases that I keep hearing about. You can definitely do project-based learning, makerspace, all of that stuff outside just as effectively, if not better, in some respects than inside a building. But problem solving, creativity can all be really explored outside. We know that views of nature will calm us down. I mean, there's a reason that we all go to national parks and state parks on our weekends to kind of settle down, calm down, because we know that it makes us feel better. And why does it make us feel better? We know that our blood pressure goes down. We know that all the happy chemicals in our brains are starting to go off when we see beautiful colors and beautiful vistas and beautiful things. We know that there's stress reduction. We know that when people are outside, not just kids, but people are outside, you're more likely to have better social, emotional connections, to work on team building, relationship skills, all of those things when you're outside. I'll use an example really quick because this slide really, I love this one, especially the bottom of the slide about social emotional skills and the wheelbarrow there, because one of the projects at Houck Elementary, we have working gardens and we have all the tools like wheelbarrows and shovels and rakes and things like that. And when the kids come out, the kids lose labels, whether it's an SLC or an SCC or a nonverbal student working with the gen ed students, it all goes away. And they're just kids out working in the garden, and they work together and they figure out amongst themselves who has what skills to contribute. And it's a really exciting program to see those kids work together. And they feel calmer when they go outside. And every principal I've ever worked with is like, how can we make kids who come back into the building have fewer incidents reports, fewer bullying incidents, fewer they were getting into fights, because we're providing more for them to do in a setting that naturally is better for them. When we talk about diversifying play, this is a lot amongst the elementary school students, but it does translate to upper grades as well. We diversify play. When you look at a play structure or a swing, you climb here, you slide there, you swing forward and back. It doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. So when you add all these other spaces that we'll talk about to your campus, the imagination starts going, the creativity starts working. They have to make up their own rules to a game. And they have to negotiate what are the rules and how they're going to play and who's in, who's out, and all that. And they can be made to suit all abilities. Kids of all abilities can use these spaces. So they're really important spaces to add to, not to replace necessarily some of the structures, but to add to and diversify opportunities. Okay, so in a nutshell, I always think of this as in 4 kind of big categories of when you add these natural features. A lot of the work I've done in the past have been through volunteer projects and volunteer events, and they've been amazing. People bring food and drinks, and these things get built usually in a few hours, you know, little phases of gardens and nature play areas and things. So you build family engagement, you involve the neighborhood, you build relationships, you have social equity, and you work on stewardship together. That the students then have pride in their campus. They contributed to something to their campus to make it really great. The health and wellness, of course, I just talked about all the different ways that we think about health and wellness, including food security. If kids learn that they can grow their own food, and even if you just have a strawberry plant on your campus or a tomato plant, those kids will start to learn that it's not that hard to grow your own food, and that opens the door for food security as they move through life. Learning, gosh, there's all sorts of ways that these help meet career or curricula goals, etc. One of the things that I really find exciting working with high school students is the CTE programs, and getting those high school students who are thinking about their careers and where they want to move on, and applying the classes they're in to hands-on projects on their campus. So if they're studying wildlife biology, boom, let's do a wildlife survey on some of these properties that have more natural areas. It's a natural connection, as well as mentoring and community service opportunities for the high school students to work with the younger grade students, go to their campus and teach them about horticulture or floriculture, whatever they're studying in their CTE programs. It's really powerful. I can talk all day about flowers and butterflies, but they would much rather hear about it from a high school student, I guarantee. And then the ecologist in me can't help but think that with all the lands that our public school districts own and our private schools own across our community, across the community, lends itself to the perfect networking of creating these ecosystems and environmental connections and corridors that we improve stormwater, improve wildlife habitat, reduce our heat island effect, and improve the environmental literacy of our community when we understand that, oh, this plant may look like a weed, but it supports our local state bird, the goldfinch, etc. So it all works together, and the students just can't get enough of it. Every student I've ever seen is just really excited about it. Okay, so what can we dream up? Oh man, the sky's the limit. Dream big, like Barbara said in last week's seminar, dream big, but start small. So dream about what are all the things that you would like to do, and there's a way to get it done. I guarantee there's ways to figure it out, whether it's seating areas for classrooms, it was thinking about how to introduce the rock cycle at your school, or having gardens right out your classroom doors for kids to just go out and access literally within seconds. There's lots of ways to get it done. Okay, so in Clark County area, which most of you are from, I think we have one from Corvallis, we have, most of our campuses look like this. So it's our buildings, our pathways, our parking lots, lots of pavement play. This is an elementary school once again. We typically all have lots of green mowed grass. We might have some street trees because that's a city or county requirement. We might have a few fir trees left over from the days of our forest, which these are all pretty standard, but this lends ourselves to lots of opportunities to make improvements around our campus. So then we look at what's a master plan. So a master plan is just a giant kind of recipe card of where are the opportunities to improve features that might have gone underutilized over the years, where are things that are broken and need to be fixed, and where there's just nothing really there that anybody uses, so let's really add more things to it. Once again, this is Lakeshore Elementary, and this is just to go show you that these don't have to be complicated drawings or anything. I'm a landscape architect, I have all the fancy graphics. stuff, but I really try to keep it simple so that it can adapt and grow over time, these master plans, where we start to add in all these features across the campus. And we do it in zones. So there's active play in one zone, quiet play in another zone, pathways to connect to outdoor learning destinations, etc. We really want to tie it all in and make sure it all fits really well. This is the Flex Academy High School in Vancouver. They wanted a master plan as well, and there's probably like 8 more sheets after this, this one diagram, but this shows you once again how simple these plans can be. Literally, this is an aerial photograph in Word with some bubbles on it. Really simple, and then the information comes in pages afterwards. And we talk about where are the destinations for learning. We know that time is limited. You got to get your supplies together, get the kids out the door, and get to your destination. So sometimes we need to have stuff right close to the building, but sometimes it's okay to take a field trip on your own campus and walk a little farther if you have a path to get to those features, like bubbles 2 and 3 here. They have beautiful sided woods. They really focused on creating bird habitat at this school, and they've been adding stuff amazing, really great improvements here. So they don't have the paths in yet, but they've added almost everything else to this campus, and it's only been 4 or 5 years since this was designed. So really simple drawings to get us to getting things in the ground. Now I'm going to cover some of the things that I always think about when I think about master plans and how to help schools think about what to add to their campuses. First of all is pathways and connections. We're going to talk about learning features. We're going to talk about active play. Once again, all grade levels, active, what does that mean? And then passive areas, and how does that play into the needs for your school? Okay, so pathways are really important. I'm a huge fan of the American with Disabilities Act, so that everybody has equitable access to their whole campus. So we talk about adding more paths and more loops. You know, not huge wide things. Usually they're 6 feet wide so that 2 people can walk side by side, or somebody, a para can help a child in a wheelchair or walker move through a space. We know that small loops help if there's some de-escalation that needs to happen. So hey, let's take it outside and go for a walk around the campus a little bit. And just having short little paths with some nature destinations around it will help staff kind of de-escalate students, or just take a quick walk when somebody needs a break. A staff member needs to go have a conversation with somebody. Let's have a walking meeting. Let's go outside really quick. Having those spaces for people to move about are really helpful. If you have early childhood, trike loops are safe places for kids to learn to ride and maneuver. Larger loops, 5th mile, 6th mile is great for elementary schools, in middle schools too, because they're measurable. So your PE classes can do PE curriculum out there. You can have a mileage club program at your school that you run all year long. But they're also a great size to monitor recess. It seems to be a size that works really well for folks. And then you could create destinations along that pathways, whether it's an outdoor classroom here, a garden there, a habitat there, and all along your path can be all these different destinations to go visit. These are also really important to the neighborhood and the communities that these schools are in. After hours, we are so fortunate in Clark County that our schools are open to the public on most campuses. The community that uses these spaces, especially if there is a path, so it's a safe place for kids to learn to ride bikes. It's a safe place for seniors and our elders and our grandparents to go for walks, have places to rest, have benches along the pathway, so people can really enjoy and interact together. You can let a kid ride their bike around while you're walking with somebody who's recovering. A really moving story at Harney Elementary, the week after they installed their loop path, a son brought his dad out, his elderly dad who had just recovered from a stroke, and they said this was a lifesaver for him because they can walk around and they can see everybody and they can measure his progress as he does his lap for his rehabilitation. Really powerful spaces for our communities. Plus safe routes to school. If we have connections to the neighborhood and our gates and our fences, we can connect those with pathways so kids can come through the neighborhoods, not have to go out to a main road on their bikes or walking to get to school. So really important connections all the way around. There's rules and regulations on how to build these things, but that's pretty straightforward. Lakeshore is actually just building theirs right now, and it should be ready really soon. Okay, outdoor learning spaces. I did these slides before COVID, and we now know so much more post-COVID on how to create outdoor classrooms with safe spacing. So these are kind of pre-COVID pictures, but as we move forward, I'll hopefully have more pictures of post-COVID spacing requirements. 2 of these are Camas Woodburn Elementary are the two bottom left and central. Lots of different ways to build outdoor classrooms. These are literally, obviously, right outside the classroom doors. They can go outside, they stage their conversation here, and then they go off around the campus to do their learning. These were built by Eagle Scouts. So once again, doesn't take a lot of money to get these built, but community partners can definitely help get these in. Think about how big is your class, plus extra para staff, individual work group stations like picnic tables are great for that. What tables and workbenches do you need to stage your materials or host an experiment? Do you need display boards, a whiteboard, a portable chalkboard, things like that? So the upper right corner is Houck Elementary. They have 3 benches that are wide enough to sit a classroom. They've got a stage, but they also have enough logs now, COVID style, so they're all 8 feet apart. The logs are 8 feet apart, where they can sit all the kids in their campus. Learning features, and this is sky's the limit. If you're in Battleground, you have Mark Watchern up there who does some amazing work, and Chris Potter, to add more learning features to your campus, and they don't have to be huge or big. Some of our newer schools, if you're a school with bond projects in Evergreen or Vancouver, you're getting a lot of these built to start with. But a lot of the projects I've worked on, we've added. The bottom central picture is the Houck Garden, butterfly garden. Is stuck way off in the corner of the school, but the front 20 feet is a planted garden, the back 20 feet is a meadow. And it just kind of grows, and we add seed to it, and it grows over time. Ogden Elementary here in the bottom right corner has a bunch of raised garden boxes that we planted sunflowers. They've got sensory herb garden up front. We've got butterfly gardens. So these don't have to be big or complicated. We have plant lists that we can get for folks to make these spaces. The top right corner is the Flax Academy, and that's their bird habitat outdoor classroom, so they can sit under those trees and study the life cycle of the birds on their campuses. Now, the one thing to note about when we add natural features, and I'm a huge proponent, is having open conversations about what's the expected look of these features going to have. Our school grounds crews in all the districts that I've worked with have great pride in the work that they do to make their campuses look nice and clean and tidy and neat and safe. These spaces will look different. They'll be they might look like a weed patch, but in actuality, they're teaching our kids a whole bunch of things about diversity. In 1 square foot or 1 square meter of a meadow, if you go out to Ogden Elementary, they have a 1 acre meadow. If you drop a 1 meter transect square out there, the diversity within that 1 meter is amazing. And how many lessons can you teach there about art, about contrast? How many colors of green do you see in that central piece? There's a lupin. Why does the water bead on the lupin leaf? What's that purpose? Whereas it will just kind of soak in on a clover leaf. The pink flower there is fuzzy, so it's going to capture that water. Lots of things you can teach. If we have access to forest and fir trees, let's make sure they're this is Truman Elementary. The next picture has a dead tree that was still remaining. That will get removed and placed to snag habitat elsewhere on the campus. But let's gather the kids near the tree so they can hear the sound of the wind in the trees, hear the birds, and see things moving around them. The upper left picture is the rock cycle garden. So that's got your igneous metamorphic. The whole rock cycle there is represented in the different rocks along that path. So campuses will look different as we add these features, but that's okay. And one of the ways that we make those work is adding elements to tell people that we know it's there and is there for a purpose. We add signage, we add student art to the campuses. We add features where we can do temporary displays. At Houck Elementary, the raised garden boxes, we lay fabric in the fall, and we just bring in corn stalks one day, gourds the next day, and we just can talk about the different things that we see in nature around us. And for some of these kids, they've never seen such diversity of gourds, and they can't wait to see it and touch it and break some apart and look inside. When it comes to meadows and having animals, kids are learning about animals in their habitat. They're learning about parts of the insect. They're learning about wildlife habitat. Well, gosh, if you have that habitat on your campus, if you have a sign that reminds them where they'll find that, maybe the art teacher can come up with a lesson to teach about how to draw an insect and then translate that into an art project that complements the general education curriculum in the science class that you're talking about. Have the student art help teach the families that visit after hours on the campus, like the life cycle of the fish that's embedded in a little concrete river. The upper right corner is a reminder that plants can also be part of harvesting on our campus. So at Harney Elementary, they have a beautiful hydrangea, and those flowers are perfect for harvesting for bouquets or pressing to make art with. But talk about your high school floriculture students. They can get their interest in elementary schools and start to learn about how to expand on their knowledge of floriculture or horticulture. And it just really opens the door, let alone finding critters like little frogs. Those are great finds. Okay, so a lot of you here I think are science teachers, so hopefully that resonated with you in that past section. But I also want to talk about play, and let me tell you, playground manufacturers have gone really great, crazy with some of the equipment that they're manufacturing to focus on the older grade students. So you can now buy challenge courses, Ninja Warrior courses, outdoor physical education workstations, beyond just the fitness stations that you might see on some paths, things like full-on PE class outside for high school students, let alone all the climbing elements that really promote the whole body coordination, the gross motor movement, that vestibular and balance piece that is so key. And for those of us who've lost it in an older age, we really value that you're going to learn all that as a kid. And the more exposure you have to different kinds of those challenges and risk, the greater they will continue to grow as young adults and into adulthood. Let alone, let's make sure we have lots of space for open play that can be used by the PE class or open games. Let's provide kids with more tools that they can make up the games on the grass. So these kids are playing, I'm not sure what game they created, but you know, they've got some yardsticks or some PVC pipe to make up a game. We can paint sensory motor skills courses where you hop here, jump there, play some twister games, all that kind of stuff. And volunteers are great for helping transform existing pavement into really vibrant spaces. Okay, nature play. If you Google nature play or go on Pinterest, you will see a million different versions of what nature play is. It's really exciting to see how far it's come. Using natural materials on campus exposes kids to what natural elements are, especially those kiddos who don't have a yard. They're in apartments, they might be in foster care, they might be moving from home to home. School grounds is a place where they can be and watch change over time. They can use materials over time to build and see how things grow and change, and they can manipulate things over time. For $200 worth of lumber, we built the SS Milligan at Houck Elementary. It's still standing 7 years later. And it's just a great place for kids to use their imagination or sit and have a conversation with their friends. You can buy a used boat. That upper right-hand corner is Harney Elementary. That's a used boat for $200 that a parent cleaned up and painted and modified the side so a kid with any mobility challenges can get into the boat. We have vendors businesses in town that can get us logs on campuses for a very reasonable price. We can collect materials and bring it to their campus if they don't have any nature, so kids can look at different cones and sticks and twigs and blocks and things and build, and just let them have at it. One school, Burnt Bridge Creek Elementary, they asked for a worm rescue spot. So they're gonna build something, a raised garden box perhaps, that is a place for when the kid rains and the kids collect all the worms, that they don't go to the recess staff, they go to a worm rescue place, and they can build little houses for them and whatever in the garden box, so those worms are safe and not going to get stepped on. Loose materials where kids use their imagination, they work together. Okay, so that's a lot of me talking about a lot of different things, but just know that you can build it in phases, you can build pieces at a time. A lot of schools that I've worked with build the path first, and once the path goes in, then everything else comes in really quickly after the fact. This is Harney Elementary, so this is standing at the fence. It's underneath a grove of fir trees looking towards the school. So it's a fifth of a mile from the school. It's not that far, but it's got a path that gets there, and you can host 2 classrooms out here. Post-COVID, this is, you can host 1 class out here and keep them all separated. There's a garden just to the left of the picture and the nature place to the right of the picture. Lots of place to move out. So knowing that there's lots of things to do, and things to add, how do you add them? And some of the questions that we hear from folks is, well, how do we get it approved and how do we pay for it? Well, the approval process luckily has come along really well. Vancouver and Evergreen schools I've worked with a lot, they are very aware of these types of projects and they have protocols in place to help expedite the approval and help volunteers and partners get these projects in the ground. Battleground, I know, is looking at this. Mark might even be on the call today. Mark Watcham with the school board. Camas has these kind of projects as well. Ridgefield is aware of these projects. So in our local school districts, this is nothing new. So some of the groundwork's already been laid on expectations and safety and things like that. When it comes to paying for these spaces, there's also another set of opportunities. Usually when you have the master plan in place, that opens the door for you to apply for grants and say, oh, well, this is phase 2 of this overall plan, and people are much more willing to know that your project's going to be sustainable in the long run. And that's key. Knowing that your project is going to be there for a long time and support the next generation of students that come through the school, people are more willing to help you get that in the ground. Our local master gardeners up at WSU have a grant program for garden spaces. They also have experts that can help teach about how to use some of those garden spaces. Our Watershed Alliance has sustainability grants if you're in the city of Vancouver. If your project is going to help lead to some sustainability efforts or habitat improvements, they can help. I have found that when I go to business and say, hey, I'm building this thing for this school, here's the master plan, do you give discounts or do you have leftover supplies back in your yard? They're more than willing to help, whether it's lumber, plants, wood chips, etc. And then also your community, your school community. Once you put the word out, this is what we want to do, because hopefully it's not the first time they've heard about it when the plan's done, but hopefully they've contributed all along their ideas. So when the plan comes to fruition, it's like, oh, well, this parent is a builder and they can get us these supplies. That parent is a nurseryman. They can help us with this part. Pulling all the pieces together takes some conversations and takes a little time to build the relationships, but every project I've worked on has moved things along because there are partnerships involved. There are also national grants too. So if you want to go plant vegetable gardens or pollinated gardens, Zero Seed Society, I mean, lots of great stuff. We can get you lists of those, and some of those are available on the Green Schools website as well. The other thing everybody wants to know is, sure, you build this really cool thing, and then how do you maintain it? Well, building is the fun part. I've always enjoyed going to volunteer work parties. They're a lot of work, but man, everybody has a good time. They get into it. They feed your volunteers well before and after. They get into it. The bottom central is Camas Woodburn. They built an entire nature play feature in 2 hours. Planting trees is as part of a school project. Many kids have never planted anything, and it's really empowering to have them learn how to plant something. Roots go down, stems go up. Friends of Trees is a great partner in our community that can get you some really big trees for very low cost. The bottom left corner is a business that donated, we paid for the concrete, they donated the labor to professionally lay a Columbia River scale model from Beacon Rock to the ocean. Once again, just ask around. We'll find you partners and materials to get your things in place. Scout groups are looking for projects to help. Your community groups, such as your churches or your local businesses, send their employees out for a couple hours. They can help. High school students can help through days of care, community service projects, lots of ways to get these things in the ground and maintained after the fact. Wherever we can incorporate curriculum into using and maintaining the gardens, they really take care of themselves. If we plan it right, if you wanted to grow vegetables, but you don't have somebody to take care of it in the summer, that may not be the right thing to grow. But we can talk about what things you can grow in your garden to have it available for harvest in the fall that doesn't take a lot of care over the summertime if you don't have a lot of people to help. But a lot of schools, they have this, they set up a schedule and a family adopts the space for a week or so, then the spaces can be taken care of. Okay, so I'm going to, so this is my contact information. If you have questions about this, that's who I am. The thing that I just posted in the chat is a website for the Green Schoolyards America. And what they are doing right now is working on a plan. It will be a virtual resource book available to learn how to create outdoor settings post-COVID. So it'll have all the safety measures in place. There are resources for teaching outside, how to set up your outdoor classroom, and things of that nature. So if you go to that website in the next few weeks, there's already information there, but there will be more information added in the next few weeks for you to be able to learn more about how to build your outdoor classroom. There is a link to get free design help, and that will just kick you to me. So if your school is interested in learning a little bit more about this, I'd be very happy to meet with you at your campus with all the safety protocols in place to talk about how we can add some of these features to your school. Once again, a lot of our local school districts already have this information and are nodding their heads like, yes, this is a good thing to add more of these features to our campus. So it's really exciting to have that working. The question, I'm going to answer this. How do you get school district to take this seriously? That's a great question. To take it seriously is we make the case with the data, the research. A lot of schools want to know, does this really work? Is it going to be a mess? Is it going to be a problem, a headache? There's not enough data now, and enough research and enough examples, especially in our community here in Clark County. We have lots of examples that you can go look at and show examples of that these really do work. And it does not take a lot of time to get your kids outside. They will not necessarily run crazy and run all over your campus. They will not hurt each other with tools. There are programs and grant opportunities to get support for learning on campuses, bringing maybe a horticultural therapist to run recess programs or after school garden clubs. Your high school students would love to come mentor and get hands-on experience at teaching kids some of these things. So how to take these seriously is to show them places where it's worked. And there is a lot of great resources. If your school is wondering how do we get this taken seriously, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer that question for you and give you specific examples based on what type of features you would like at your school so we can get those in place. We'll wrap this up with saying thank you for your time here today. This will be available on the Clark Green Schools webpage. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me and let me know. I'd be happy to help you and your school get these features on your campus. So that I will say thank you, and I hope you all stay healthy and take care.